It all began one cold night in 1927 when a local villager, Thomas Wilkins, was walking back to his cottage in the sleepy village of Borley. As he strolled along the dark, quiet roads, his breath hanging in the crisp night air, a faint rumble reached his ears. At first he thought nothing of it, perhaps a cart or some late traveler, but as the noise grew louder, Thomas turned to look down the road. To his shock, he saw a black carriage racing toward him. It was an old-fashioned vehicle. Its wheels were spinning wildly, but the horses pulling it were invisible. The driver, Thomas could make out, was headless, a ghostly figure shrouded in dark, flowing robes. The carriage sped toward him, and for a moment, Thomas froze in place, too stunned to move. As the carriage came closer, he could hear the sound of the horse's hooves pounding the earth, but when it passed, the ground beneath him remained still. There were no hooves to leave tracks, no signs of life or movement. The carriage, as if it were never real, disappeared as quickly as it had appeared. Thomas ran to the nearest house to share his terrifying tale, but no one believed him. After all, who would? This wasn't the first story of hauntings from Borley Rectory, and it wouldn't be the last. But what set this particular story apart was that it marked a new chapter in the village's chilling history. And soon, the world would come to know Borley Rectory as England's most haunted house. Long before Borley Rectory was built, the land it stood on carried an ominous history. Locals spoke of a monastery that once stood here, a place of worship, but also of secrets. The most famous legend tells of a forbidden love. A young nun from a nearby convent had fallen in love with a monk from Borley. Desperate to be together, they planned to elope in secret, but their escape was discovered. The monk was executed, and the nun was sealed alive within the walls of the convent as punishment. Her spirit, trapped in sorrow and regret, was said to wander the land forever, searching for the man she would never see again. For centuries, villagers reported seeing a ghostly figure in a habit, walking along the pathway that became known as the Nun's Walk. She never spoke, never looked at anyone. She only wandered, lost in time. Then, in 1862, a new building rose on the land, a rectory, and the hauntings truly began. In 1862, Reverend Henry Bull built Borley Rectory as a home for himself, his wife, and their 14 children. From the very first day, there were whispers. Servants reported phantom footsteps pacing the hallways. Unseen hands moved objects when no one was looking. At night, a cold presence settled over the bedrooms, waking the children in fear. But the most chilling encounters happened outside. Henry Bull himself claimed to have seen the nun. Instead of fearing her, he became obsessed. He even built a summer house overlooking the Nun's Walk so he could watch her appear. But what he dismissed as a harmless spirit was only the beginning. Soon, the hauntings became violent. A servant girl was locked in a room for hours by an unseen force. Chairs moved on their own, scraping across the floor in empty rooms. The sound of whispering voices filled the hallways at night. When Henry Bull passed away, his son, Harry Bull, inherited the rectory. He, too, ignored the warnings, until he died, suddenly in 1927. That same year, Thomas Wilkins saw the phantom carriage, and Borley Rectory was about to welcome a new family, one that would not escape unscathed. In 1929, Reverend Lionel Foister and his wife Mary Ann moved into Borley Rectory. They would only last 5 years, because what they experienced was far beyond ghost stories. At first it was small things, doors opening on their own, footsteps in empty rooms. Then the attacks began. Mary Ann was slapped, scratched, and thrown from her bed. Heavy objects were hurled across rooms without explanation. Mysterious messages appeared on the walls, pleading for help. One message read, "Mary Ann, please help me." Another, "Mary Ann, light the candle." Who, or what, was writing these? Reverend Foister attempted an exorcism, but as he prayed, the house shook violently. Loud bangs echoed through the halls. A heavy book flew across the room, narrowly missing his head. The exorcism failed. The Foisters fled. But their story caught the attention of one man, a man determined to uncover the truth, Harry Price. In 1937, renowned paranormal investigator Harry Price arrived at Borley Rectory. He rented the house for an entire year, bringing in a team of investigators to document every supernatural occurrence, and what they witnessed was terrifying. Cold spots appeared out of nowhere. Unseen hands knocked on walls in response to questions. Poltergeist activity, objects moving on their own. During a seance, a spirit named Marie Layer communicated through Price's medium. She claimed she had been murdered and buried beneath the house. Then, the spirits made a chilling prediction. The rectory will burn. And in 1939, it did. In February 1939, just 2 years after Harry Price's investigation, Borley Rectory was consumed by flames. A new owner had been moving in when an oil lamp was knocked over, sparking a fire. The house burned rapidly, reduced to ruins. But the fire revealed something far more terrifying. Buried in the cellar, hidden beneath the house for centuries, they found a human skeleton. Many believed it was the remains of the ghostly nun, finally uncovered after hundreds of years. She was given a proper burial, but even after her remains were laid to rest, the hauntings never stopped. Today, Borley Rectory no longer stands. Only the land remains, but visitors still report unexplained cold chills, disembodied voices, shadow figures moving through the ruins. Some believe the nun still wanders the grounds, searching for her lost love. Others say the real horror of Borley Rectory was something much darker, something that still lingers, unseen. Some believe Borley Rectory was the most haunted house in England. Others argue it was all a hoax. But whether real or imagined, the legend of Borley Rectory refuses to fade, because some places never let go of their ghosts, and some ghosts never stop looking for a way home.